Well, here is our update. A few days late, but we want to talk about Utah and how we finally got there after a little bit of delay on January 1st because we decided to install the solar panels.
We're some friends, awesome friends.
Awesome friends. But we didn't have power the whole time.
Or water.
Or water. Or heat.
Heat.
Or, yeah. We pulled out of town, I think it was like 9 o'clock at night. So January 1st, we did get to take off.
And we made it to Utah.
We made it to Utah. So, but we didn't have electricity. We tripped all of the breakers in the house when we plugged in at my brother's. And so I went searching for the breaker and tried to figure out what was going on with the power. Well, and then we cruised on down to...
Orem.
Was it Orem? Oh yeah, we picked up our bike racks in Orem. So we had been searching and had been tripping over the bikes inside of the RV, which
They were
was
leaned up against the table, our mountain bikes.
most of the time. But when we went around corners, then they weren't leaned up against the table. They were slammed against the counter on the opposite side.
I think we have a dent in our silverware drawer.
Yeah. You know, we made it to Cedar City. I had meetings early the next morning, but we didn't have any power. So that means we didn't have any fans or forced air for the heat. And we hadn't turned on the propane yet either. So we were pretty much without anything to heat the RV, and it was probably a solid 25-30 degrees in Cedar City.
It was cold the first morning.
It got cold.
I didn't want to get out of bed, but I had to get out of bed because I had to go potty.
And yeah, I checked on the girls. I think we both checked on the girls in the middle of the night to make sure that they were warm, and they were all cuddled up nice and warm in their bundles of blankets.
But Coulter had meetings the next morning early, so he was out before we got totally out of bed. It was really nice. We had his meeting at the Spring Hill Marriott, so we were able to use their toilets, and they fed us breakfast and let us swim in the pool while Coulter went to meetings.
It was nice that we had
swam.
meetings there so that they would accommodate us a little bit.
Yeah, it was nice. Well, we took the RV to the electrical shop that day.
So they spent a lot of that day, Wednesday, on the RV, and I worked from the RV as he was working on it. And
I didn't want to wait around with the girls.
so Paige took off with the girls, and they went and played.
Frontier Homestead State Park, which was a cool little place, just about the history of Cedar City and horses and stagecoaches and farming and agriculture. And they just have a whole bunch of artifacts and little houses about how they used to live in the old days. And then we went outside, and the kids loved that and ran from place to place. And then they liked the horseshoes, mostly just playing in the dirt and the sand. But on my way I stopped at the Info Center, which had the Daughters of the Utah Pioneer Museum, and that was free. The other one, the Frontier Homestead, it was like $4. So I went in there, I met May Hunter. She was in the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers place, and she's had such great stories about history, and we went and picked up Coulter.
Anyways, it was a fun hometown little diner that we ate at, and there was a park right next door, and so then the girls went and played at this awesome park right there next to Hermes.
Yeah, it was tall.
Yeah, it was really tall. It was
Yeah,
like,
sweet
man, if
slide.
a kid falls off of there, you're going to be in big trouble. So they played there, and then there was another park that
Everyone recommended.
everyone was like, you've got to go there. So
Park Discovery.
we went there. That was cool. I flew the drone there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much
Park
the night.
Discovery it's not like a park, but it's like had a whole bunch of buildings and stairs, places where kids could run up and crawl around, and That was a cool little park.
Yeah, that was cool.
But
And it
we
was getting
checked it
late.
out.
We were all tired. We were exhausted.
We parked across
Let's
the
see,
street.
did we have power that night? We did have power. No, we didn't.
Because we didn't know how to work
we,
the
didn't know,
switch.
we didn't know how to run it. So we didn't have power, but that's because we didn't know how to turn the right switch. So the next morning, we took it back to the shop, and fortunately, they didn't just like say, "Hey, you guys are idiots," and here's the keys
But
back
we
to
were
your RV.
idiots.
But yeah, we simply are just novice to this whole RV thing. So we took it to them. Then I had some meetings, and so we went and picked it back up.
We went to the dinosaur discovery site at Johnson Farm, and that place, it was pretty cool. It was interesting. It was just, I guess a farmer was digging up some stuff, and he's like, hey, this looks like a fossil or something. Say they're like the stuffed animal. She's tried to steal the dinosaur stuffed animal and hid under the clothes rack. And it was free that day, so we lucked out, and the kids spent like 3 hours there.
In the meantime, I had been left the RV while Paige was running around in the car, and I was running late. I had been invited to a lunch meeting with some guys after my meetings, and the jacks were down. The leveling jacks were down, so I started to drive. And obviously I came off of the jacks. Fortunately, they're set up for idiot moves like that.
We thought your meetings might not last as long as they did, and then I decided I wasn't going to wait around, so
So she didn't wait around, and
I didn't put the jacks down. Up. I didn't put them up.
but went to lunch, had some more good meetings, and then met Paige and the girls at the Discovery Museum at the very end of it closing, and then what, we grabbed some Arby's real quick as we headed to go and try and find our boondocking campsite with our friends, good friend from high school, Alexa Harris, and her boyfriend. They had a good spot for us out west of St. George, and it was awesome. We woke up the next morning to sunshine and beautiful St. George, and went for a little walk with the girls, which is always nice. We were close to a lot of really good climbing spots. Green Valley, I think, is where we went climbing that next day. Is that when we finally got the water going? And
Yeah, we de-winterized the RV.
we de-winterized the RV. It was too cold before that. Cedar City was too chilly, and so was Park City and Midway. There's just no way we could have de-winterized it until we did. So
Coulter wanted to wait until Vegas, but I was grumpy. You know, trying to figure out how to go from what is our 3,500 square foot house to a
200 square foot box.
box with 3 girls, and I was grumpy.
And rightfully so. Because when you don't have electricity and you don't have gas to be able to run your furnace, and you don't have water, you don't have a toilet, you don't have a shower, basically the amenities of comforts of home have been stripped from you, then there's probably some reason to be a little bit grumpy. And then the amenities were back. Or they were existent.
Yeah, so then we came back after that, and on our way back we stopped by the wildlife
It's a wildlife museum. Yeah.
See, whatever it's called, but it was right there by the RV park, and it was pretty cool. It had a lot of animals.
Yeah.
Very... Well, it wasn't very small. It didn't seem small, but...
It was cool because they had like Asian animals, and they had... It was Asia, Europe.
They had everything from every
Anyway, they had
continent,
lots of
animals,
stuff.
and they had a little guided tour that you could walk through and see, and then we
We were hungry.
grabbed some Subway, filled up with gas, and went rock climbing.
And then we went rock climbing, which was really fun. We found a good little spot. Good rock climbing. Blakely did. It was a 510A,
B?
510B, which is a pretty solid climb. Blakely did it twice with very little assistance.
Yeah, she rocked it.
So, rocked
Literally.
it.
Rocked
Literally.
it.
We are funny.
I think it's just really late.
And it's really late, and we're ready to go to bed, but if you want the update, this is when you get the update. But then that night was fun. In our 200 square foot box, we were able to get, we invited some friends over that, at the Mayers, Amy and Garrett Mayer and their family, and Alexa and Seth came over. And so we had 13 people in the RV for dinner. And
With our can cooker.
we ate out of the can cooker. It was fun. The next morning we headed over to Zion's National Park. We went up to the Narrows and did the the Riverwalk Trail, which is really pretty, by the way. And we look forward to doing the entire Narrows Trail. Then we drove, went back and had lunch at the trailhead there. We drove around and, oh man, Zion's National Park, it reminds me of how small we are, let's say, because you have walls of rock just hundreds and hundreds of feet above you. And then we cruised on out of the park finally. You know, it's fun to see friends and people that you don't usually get to see, and that has been I think one of the funnest things so far. You've seen some beautiful places and gorgeous landscapes, different mountains and trees and valleys and rivers and just beautiful places. But I think the relationships that we are able to renew and people that we're able to see that we normally wouldn't get to see has been, I think, one of the funnest things for us. As much as we love Facebook and being able to stay connected with friends,
Just not the same.
it's just not the same. I think that's been a really good thing for us. On Sunday we were able to go to church, nice little ward in St. George. We love going to church and it's really important to us. And after sacrament meeting we were headed to Sunday school. And we looked into the Sunday school room and it was packed. And so we look at each other like, okay, well, should we try and fit in here or...
I opted to go to nursery.
So Paige decided to go to nursery, but we kind of debated as to whether we were going to just take off. Tessa had a sniffly nose. Actually, she just wasn't feeling good at all. And so she came to Sunday school with me, and Paige and Tess and Sailor went to nursery. This is, I think, a true blessing for our family, is to be able to spend more time together as a family, but also to increase our spirituality. And
So, that's Utah. And this is our...
I didn't follow
Path.
the line. But
So anyway,
anyway.
so we stopped here. That's Park City, Midway. Here's Cedar City, St. George. Cedar City, St. George.
I hope
We'll
you're
get
all
better.
liking the demonstration.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is our map that we did. We're gonna try to color coordinate it to see, what days we traveled, whatever, and it's kind of fun. And Utah was fun.
It was. It's a great state. Glad we could be there. All right.
Life elevated.
Life elevated
That's best.
in the state of Utah.